Okay. Welcome to Metron. I know, believing more people are coming, or otherwise we'll just go sit in my car. Uh, anyway, I was trying to be on time for the streamers, and I'm thinking people must be running late for all the famine and pestilence and locusts and all the Old Testament stuff that's happening everywhere. So let's, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and stand, and we'll get officially started. You guys, just don't worry about that. It's fine. Okay. Okay. Spirit of God, we come into this place, into this atmosphere, focused with our mind in a positive place. And we believe that as we keep our mind stayed on you, that you keep us in perfect peace. Everybody said, amen. Just remain standing. Let's do the Lord's Prayer opening together. Our Father, who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life. Hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature. On earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. But deliver us from evil, as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen, and so it is. Greet someone. I'm assuming you all know each other. So greet someone, and then you may be seated. I think I am going to teach today, but I think we'll get started with a meditation. So I guess for people that are coming in late, maybe just hold them there for a little bit, or I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Do at this point, just do whatever. If we've got some meditation music, let's get quiet for a moment. And I know we've been living in a lot of hectic activity, a lot stressful environment. Let's just come into a place of stillness. Those of you that are streaming, just wherever you are, just find a place that's comfortable. Sit up straight. You don't have to get in a lotus position, but just get into a posture that brings some an energy flow into your physical body. And we're just going to begin with some breathing. We're going to breathe in through the nose and hold it, and then out through the mouth. So let's go. In, hold, and out. We can bring the music up a little bit. Breathe in, hold, and out. Inhale, hold, exhale. meditation's mostly about breathing. So inhale. And exhale. Let yourself relax. Let yourself feel the tension flow out of you. Come into a place of presence. Come into a place of awareness. Come into a place of consciousness. Just continue to be consistent in your breathing. For me personally, I always find gratitude is a great way to enter. Even when David talked about praise and worship, he says, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and praise. It's like the password. So find a place of quietness and just focus on what you're grateful for this morning. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that you're here. Just make a little gratitude list in your mind. You can let people in, it's fine. If you're coming in late, just come in quietly and find a place. If you're already in meditation mode, just stay in your zone. Stay right where you are. Stay focused on your breathing. Breathing and gratitude. Sometimes even just to make some affirmations, like I'm going to say some things you repeat after me. God is good. Say that. I am blessed. I am well. I am whole. I am grateful. I am. And just continue to go deeper into your breath. Stay consistent in your breathing. Take this moment for yourself. Let yourself relax. Let yourself be. Let yourself be aware that you're seated in heavenly places. Let yourself get in touch with your divinity. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead dwells in you. Be aware of that. Be conscious of that. Let your spirit connect with the other people in this room. Let yourself feel connected with nature. And most importantly, be aware of your connection with God. God in you, and through you, and above you, below you, all around you, and as you. As He is, so are we in this world, in this dimension. Now we're going to breathe out of it and get on with what we're going to do today. But once again, give me some consistent breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Inhale. Breath and spirit are the same thing. Exhale. In. So be it. All right, good. Thank you. You can open your eyes and we'll move on. That was a nice little palate cleanser. Everybody feel relaxed? Everybody feel a sense of oneness? Okay. We can go ahead and turn the music off. Beautiful. Let me remind you that 2 weeks from today, we will not be here. We're going to be at Meditation Weekend, April 29th and 30th in St. Simon's. It's our 5th time going to St. Simon's. If any of y'all there want to come sit over here, you can. And if there's also coffee in there, if you want to go get coffee and bring it back to your seat, that's fine. Good. So don't forget, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but don't forget and drive over here 2 weeks from today. We will be here next Sunday. In Jesus' name. Yeah, we will. Yeah, I believe we will. All right, good. Thank you. Let's see if there's anything else I needed to. Annette, y'all come on in. It's fine. Anything else I needed to announce? First Sunday of February, which is the 7th, Chelsea Shagg is returning, and she's going to do a. What did I say? Why did I say February? Yeah, May 7th. That was odd. Sunday, May 7th, Chelsea Shagg is returning, and we're going to. I don't know if we have a slide for that. But she's going to do a sound bath again, like she did before. We're going to do a little bit longer this time. Before I had her do some music and the sound bath, I said, this time just do that, because I think I love to hear her play, but I think that's a whole other really cool thing that she's tapped into. So we're definitely looking forward to that. Okay? What? Oh, yeah. Good point. Yeah. Good. You are exactly correct, Kenneth. Ken's birthday is this week, and we're gonna celebrate it a little bit after I teach. So, just to let you know. So I think that's everything I needed to announce. We'll go ahead. If we're ready for the podcast, we'll get that started. When I call on Charles now, I feel like I'm talking to God. Like, Charles, are you there? If there is a Charles. Oh, okay. Woo! It's kind of a delayed reaction. All right. Welcome to Metron Live podcast, coming to you live from beautiful historic Kirkwood neighborhood, which is Midtown adjacent. We're still in historic Atlanta. Metron people, would you please welcome the podcast people? Hello, hello, hello. What I want to share with you today, I'll go ahead and give you the title. I think I will. We'll go ahead and give you the title. Yes, Spirit Life, Attached to Nothing, Connected to Everything. So we're going to reframe some things today, and I'm going to open some new neuropaths in your brain and get you to rethink some things. And I'm going to start with a scripture out of, it's 2 Corinthians 4:18. This is out of the New King James Version. And here it says, while we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. The things which are seen, the things that we can perceive with our five natural senses in this physical realm are temporary. Everything changes. Everything will change. The things on the other side of the veil, the things in the spirit realm, that's what's real. That's what's eternal. One night this week on my 11:11, I talked about how the real you exists in another dimension. The real you is eternal. The real you has no beginning and no ending. And what we see here in this physicality is actually an avatar. It's and I talked about how the avatar evolves. Like we look different than we looked 20 years ago or 40 years ago. And I told a story about, I remember when we were expecting Judah, the doctor had said we were having a girl. We had two sonograms, both said girl. So we had not even picked out a boy's name. It was, the doctor was so sure. He said, it's definitely a girl. And I've told you the story. He was supposed to be born like September 9th, and Rutherford called me and said, you're having a boy in August. I said, no, we're having a girl in September. He said, I don't care if he's born August 31st, you're having a boy. And Judah was born August 31st. So Robert's not always on it, but for we know in part, we prophesy in part. And if you're watching today, Robert, you know that's true. But on that one, he nailed it. And I remember Debbie and I had gone to see Ben-Hur at the Fox Theater, and she was, really close. Like we were so close to her going into labor, we weren't even sure if we should have driven downtown that night. But the Ben-Hur character's name was Judah Ben-Hur, and so every time they would say that name, I would just feel quickened, and so I turned to her and I said, I know we're having a girl. But if for some reason we end up having a boy, hey, PC. Good to see you. Glad you're here. I can't not call you PC. I've called you that for so many years. And I have your painting, by the way. Remind me to give that to you before we close. But I said, if we have a boy, I totally want to name him. Not Judah Ben-Hur, but I said, I want to name him Judah Benjamin. And when I said that, I saw him. But I didn't see him like he looks now or like he looked as a kid. I saw him kind of when he was a teenager, when he had long blonde hair. And it's interesting to me that he looks nothing like that now. That's what I saw when I said that name. And what that says to me is the avatar that we are in this dimension is evolving, and it's not eternal. We will all pass at some point. We're still grieving the passing of our sister Leona. By the way, her service is this Saturday at 3 p.m. at Levitt and Sons, the one on Scenic Highway. I think they have 2 or 3 locations. So, believe me, I have on more than one occasion driven to the wrong funeral home to do a funeral. And I ask, is this not where the Johnson funeral is? They're like, no. Oh, my God. You'd be surprised how fast you can drive through traffic when you got a bereft family waiting on you. But anyway, when I'm still processing it, I'm still, broken over it. And yet, I also know that Leona's very much alive, and I don't want to speak of her in past tense. The person that we knew was an avatar of the real her. The real her exists in another dimension, whether you call that heaven or eternity or the now or just in God. You were here before you were here. And the scripture that I use when I taught on this is when God speaks to Jeremiah and he says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Not I knew who you would be. I knew you. In other words, you existed before you were created. Jesus existed. Jesus put in 2 or 3 appearances in the Old Testament before being born as a baby in Bethlehem. Melchizedek was, many people think that was a pre-incarnate Jesus. The 4th man in the fire, when Nebuchadnezzar says, we put 3 men, I see a 4th one that looks like the Son of Man. Many people believe that was Jesus before he was Jesus. And the man who was leading the army, remember, and somebody said, who are you? And they talked about being the captain of the host. And so there was lots of appearances before he was here. It makes me understand why some people believe in reincarnation. I'm not saying I do. I'm just saying I believe it's an attempt for people to understand and make sense of this fact that we exist beyond our existence, right? And so, this whole thing about the unseen realm is what's real, and the seen thing is what is the seen realm is what's temporal. That's basically faith teaching 101. That's like, in Romans 4 where it says God quickens the dead and calls those things which are not as though they are. In the Amplified Bible it says he speaks of the non-existent things as though they already existed. And that's why even, when I started teaching on meditation here, it was after I'd gone to see Dr. Joe Dispenza at his weekend thing. And when he led everybody in meditation, he said, I want you to visualize something that you want to be manifested. And I want you to think about how you would feel when that thing is. So as explaining that, I thought, well, that's Mark 11:24. That's believe you receive when you pray. My theology is yes and. It's not either or. So if I hear somebody from another faith stream say something that sounds different, I automatically want to connect the dots. I automatically think, come in. Welcome back from Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas. Welcome. The whole idea of something existing already. And that's one reason when I first started hearing about quantum physics, and they talked about how in the unified quantum field, everything already exists, but the way you observe it determines what's going to collapse into your reality. Again, I'm thinking, oh, well, that's before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. So the reason I'm using this phrase, attached to nothing, connected to everything, I would like to suggest, I'm not going to tell you what to do, I would like to suggest you consider changing the way you think about your attachments and rethink some things. Rethink some things to help you be more in a flow in life, okay? Y'all with me? So I've used this quote before by Einstein, but I want to use it again, where he says, a human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Have you ever experienced a thing with someone, like somebody that you're kind of close to or have a connection with, and they give you a call and they say, "You have been on my mind. I can't get you off my mind," and you're like, "You have no idea how much I need to hear from you right now." It's because we have a connection. David called it your deep calling unto deep. We have a connection that goes beyond what we're seeing right here. That's why sometimes, if you lose a loved one, I don't know the best way to say it, because I feel like death is really an illusion, so I don't want to say when somebody dies. And so I end up saying if you lose someone, but that's not, I don't really think they're lost. I'm still searching for a way to, I guess you could say when somebody passes, somebody close to you, I guess that's fun. Transition, that's probably the best word. When somebody transitions. Of course, these days, when I say transition, I'm not sure people know what I'm talking about. They're like, are they non-binary? No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about their gender. I'm talking about. It's kind of like I don't know why this always makes me laugh, but when the disciples came to Jesus and they said, "The one you love is sick," and Jesus says, "Well, he's asleep." And so they said, "Well, if he's asleep, that's good. If he's sick, he needs rest." And Jesus looks at him and he's like, "Lazarus is dead, y'all. You just made me say it. I was trying to keep it up here, but you pulled me down into your understanding of things." But the point is, when somebody that you're connected to passes, they're still with you. They're still, whether you call it part of a cloud of witnesses or whatever, you still sometimes can feel their presence very much. It's because you still are connected to them. And that connection is not broken when somebody dies. And I don't want to be morbid about it, but I did, when I was teaching on this earlier in the week, I did say this. I said, those of you that have seen the body of a loved one in a casket, there's an odd kind of relief that comes from that, because it's sad, but also when you look at them, you think, that's not them. They're not. It's like you suddenly have this realization that this avatar of this person is just the house that they lived in. And you don't feel any, you could stand there and cry and feel, Jesus wept even though he knew he was going to raise Lazarus. And still, you don't feel any connection to that thing in that casket, because you think, well, that's definitely not them. And the way I've explained it to other people who have just experienced the transition of a loved one is I walk around with my phone in my hand all day long. I mean, it's right over there, and I'm always, like, if it's too far away from me, I feel anxious. Like, who's got my phone? And it's not that I'm just addicted to it. It's just that it has all of my information in it for everything. That's how I bank. That's my camera. I don't even know Ken's phone number. I don't know my mom's phone number. I know, hey Siri, call Ken. That's what I know. And hey Siri, you still there? Thank you. One of the greatest features. Okay, enough. One of the greatest features, if I do misplace the phone, I could say, "Hey Siri," and he'll go, "Yeah." And one day I don't live in a big place, so I lost my phone. I'm thinking, it's got to be here somewhere. There's only so many places it could be. It was one of those things where I thought, have I lost my mind? I mean, I know I have not walked out of here. It's got to be in here. And I couldn't. I walked around, like Marco, and finally, I didn't notice that I had it on the bathroom sink and it had knocked off into the waste paper basket, and it was under some papers. So he said, "I'm here" so many times. He finally said, "Swilly, I'm in here." Yeah, he finally did. I said, "Oh," a little Siri sarcasm. That was a little scary, but yeah, he did. If you keep saying things to Siri, it's amazing how many different phrases have been recorded, because after a while you'll get one that's really kind of surprising. Anyway, my point is, if I've ever gone to get a new phone, I'm at the AT&T store, and I'm deciding what to get. The whole time I'm negotiating and paying for it and everything, I'm very aware that my phone is right there. It's always within. If it's not in my hand, it's somewhere where I can reach it. And then when they give me the new phone, and now they switch the information so quick, it's unbelievable. It's like they bring out this new phone and they're like, well, there it is, and you're like, oh my God, it's got all my apps are on here, all my contacts, everything. And then just that quick, I look at that thing on that table that was an extension of my body 10 minutes ago, and now I feel no connection to it at all. So that's what makes me think the phone is what's inside the phone. It's what the phone's capable of doing. It's the connections it gives you. It's not the actual device itself. And so I'm not saying the physical is not important. I'm saying you have to remember that the physical is temporary. So what Einstein says here is just you have to be conscious that you're connected to everything, because you are. Everybody is connected. And when I say attached to nothing, connected to everything, I'm not saying that there aren't some attachments in your life that are greater than other attachments. Certainly, a spouse, a significant other, a parent, a child, you're going to have a more intense attachment to them than you are to everybody else. That's just natural and normal. I'm not telling you not to feel attached to your spouse. I'm saying don't feel codependent and manipulative and controlling of them. Because understanding you're connected to somebody and that connection is different from attachment allows you to let them be them, not who you think they should be. Yesterday, sent some healing vibes to Ken because he's having some issues with his back. He would never tell you that, but he is. That's why if he just walked up, Michelle, when he walked up there to hug you earlier, I thought he must really love you, because that was a painful walk up and down those steps. But yesterday I said, it's probably good for you to walk a little bit. Do you feel like walking? So there's Margaritaville, which, by the way, when we go to Margaritaville, we're not throwing back margaritas. We go there to eat. Believe me, right now, in my present condition, I ain't drinking nothing. Some people yesterday go, I'd love a margarita right now. Well, good. I didn't have one. I had a grilled chicken salad and a glass of water. But anyway, when we walked, it's nice to have some places that are close to my house that are on a beautiful day yesterday, and I thought this is great, just to be able to walk somewhere and not have to get in the car. And we passed two different stations of Jehovah's Witnesses standing there, and this is kind of I've noticed, I don't know if they don't go door to door as much as they used to now, but I've noticed when I'm walking around Atlanta, they've got stations everywhere of people with offering Bible studies. And they're standing there with, if you're interested in Bible study, there'll be people, 2 or 3 people standing there. Nobody's asking for Bible study. But anyway, I walked by and I said out loud, I said, I wonder what group that is. And he said, it's probably Jehovah's Witness. And I looked, and sure enough, it said jw.org. I said, yeah, that makes sense. And I was thinking, was remembering, back in the day when I used to do a lot of street preaching and door-to-door personal evangelism, there would always be Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses out there with me. I mean, there's some neighborhoods I would go to that the JWs would be in front of me and the Mormons would be behind me. And, I'm like, I'm sure we are driving this person crazy. I'd knock on the door like, I'm sorry. I know you just had somebody, but now I'm the next guy offering to tell you that guy was wrong. I'm right. And so when we would be out there, we would end up, sometimes we'd be talking. And I remember having a conversation one time on a very hot day on Peachtree Street. We were out there preaching. Not together, but on the same sort of street corner. So I took a break and they took a break. And I said, let me ask you something. I said, so y'all only believe 144,000 people are going to be ultimately saved? And they said, yeah. And I said, don't you feel like out here trying to make converts is diminishing your chances? It seems like every convert you make, that's one spot that's taken. I said, I'm out here sweating. It's like it's got to be 101, 102 today. At least I believe that the more people I bring with me, that's the way I thought back then, that's actually going to work in my favor. Like, Jesus is going to be happy with me. Because we used to talk about, I'm going to get a soul winner's crown. And I think I had other reasons for it now. But anyway. But I think if there was only 144,000 slots, I wouldn't want to be adding anybody because I'm like, I got to make sure, I keep the odds in my favor. I got to make sure there's some open thing. And one guy said, he said, I've never thought of that. I said, well, it might be something you want to look into. But the point is, I'm saying all that to say, I'm looking out there, these people standing there, not able to enjoy the beauty of the day. They're trying to make converts. And remembering how I've had connections with them for years. I mean, I remember when I lived in Covington, because we had a glass front door, I could see them coming up the sidewalk. And, I would be, if I didn't duck it entirely, I would just answer the door and I'd say, look, let me save you some time. I know you want to give me a watchtower, but I'm going to be a complete waste of your time. You're going to tell me all this. I know the whole thing. You probably should go to a house where there's a possibility, because I'm going to be a dead-end street for you. And sometimes they would thank me, that and then other times they want to argue. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to argue with you because I'll win the argument and I don't care. Enjoy. I didn't say namaste back then, but I'm like, just go with God or go with Jehovah or whatever. I'm not trying to be irreverent. I'm just saying, I'm not sure I'm saying the right terminology. I was watching, and somehow, I must have seen it on YouTube. I was in a YouTube rabbit hole, and I saw a Dr. Phil episode where they were talking about the words you can't say now because of political correctness. And many of those things I was aware of. And I wasn't disagreeing with any of it, but there were so many they couldn't. I thought, dear God, I'm like so nervous. I'm not disagreeing. I don't know how you can talk anymore. Because, so many things they brought up. I thought, wow, I would have never thought that's where that came from. And I'm glad to know, but I'm just going to have to go around speaking in tongues all the time because I don't know, everything. Like, no matter what you say, like, that's the wrong thing to say now. Okay? Just trying to know the right thing to say. Even among LGBT people, what is it, LGBT plus Q? Like, I'm lost. I mean, even as a part of that community, I'm like, I don't know. I like, after the T, can I get a witness, BJ? I mean, after the T, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, just whatever. Now that flag is just every color you can imagine. Just throwing it every floor. I think they've even put Black Lives Matter on there and everything. No, they really have. It's like the black V on there. I'm like, okay, now is this a flag that finally represents everybody? Anyway, the point is, I'm looking at those people out there trying to make converts, and I thought, on some level, everybody's trying to make converts in some way. You might not be trying to get somebody to join your religion, but most of the arguing that goes on social media is one person trying to convert somebody else to their way of thinking. and nobody being converted. It's just a lot of arguing and a lot of doubling down. I mean, even this week, I've even seen people in my own blood family post things that I thought, sweet God, I had no idea that's what they believed. Okay, I'm just, note to self, if there's another funeral or family reunion, don't bring up that. Because I just had no idea they thought that. And I'm looking at it because I want to say, how the hell could you possibly, how could you not know? That's so obvious. How could you think that? But I know I'm going to say that and get in this public argument with them that ain't going to change anything. And that's one reason I want to talk about realize you're connected, everybody. And I'm not saying there isn't a place for discourse and dissent and an exchange of ideas. I think that's healthy. I do not believe in censorship. I do not support cancel culture. I think everybody deserves to be heard. I believe in all of that. But I also believe it has to be spoken with an amount of liberty in knowing that you can make your point and also realize that some people very close to you are not going to see your point. And you're going to have to determine how much that's going to alter the relationship you have in this earthly dimension. Y'all with me? So, and that's, there's some effort to that. How do you realize your connection with somebody and release your attachment to want them to see the truth, at least the truth as you perceive it? Because there are people very close to me who I can't get my head around how they could possibly think what they think. But they probably think the same thing about me. They probably look at me and say, how in the world could you possibly believe that? That's one reason I stay on my page a lot, because there's some things I read that some people post, and I think, I wish I hadn't read that you posted that, because it's really making me think very differently about you, and I just don't know. I don't know if this is going to affect our relationship in the long run, because I don't feel an attachment to you right now. Anyway, let me move on and get to my point. Dr. Dyer said this: simply have a mind that is open to everything but attached to nothing. Let it all come and go as it will. Enjoy it all, but never make your happiness or success dependent on an attachment to anything, any place, and particularly any person. In all of your relationships, if you can love someone enough to allow them to be exactly what they choose to be without any expectations or attachments from you, you'll know true peace in your lifetime. True love means you love a person for what they are, not for what you think they should be. This is an open mind and an absence of attachment. I mean, I think that sums up everything, because I don't care how much you love somebody, they are who they are, and you are who you are. Every time we drive into a parking lot, Ken, he knows everybody's car. He knows what you drive. He knows what make it is. I mean, he knows everything. I can't remember half the time what I drive. Like if somebody asks me, what do you drive? And I think, what is that called? It's something, it starts with a C. That's just not where my interest is that much. So as we were driving in today, he noticed somebody was here. He said, oh, so-and-so's here. And he said, Rose here too. And I said, yeah, she's here. He said, oh, see, you're starting to notice people's cars. I said, no, I'm not. She's standing there in front of the door. You're going by the information that you have. And as much as I respect that, I don't see the world through cars. Now, we do have some things that we both enjoy, but there's some things that I like that he's maybe will tolerate. Karen gave us tickets to Jesus Christ Superstar a few months ago, which Jesus Christ Superstar is my whole life. I mean, I've been to, I can't even imagine how many productions of it I've been to. Jeff Finholt, who was the first Jesus on Broadway, was a friend of mine. And so it's, I always, even if it's not my favorite production, I'm always interested to see how they do things. We're sitting there before it starts with the playbill, and Ken says, "Is this about Jesus or something?" It's like, wow, how have we been together for 11 years? But he is who he is. I am who I am. I remember years ago when Ryan Klesko was going to, I'm sure I've shared this, but when he used to go to Church of the Now, he wanted to teach me how to hunt. I'd never even shot a gun before. He took me out and taught me how to shoot it, which I didn't like it, but I did it because he was important to me. And he took me to Dublin. We wanted to go boar hunting. And sure enough, first time I went out, I shot a 300-pound boar, which it messed with my head. I mean, I got in the car and cried because that's the first thing I'd ever killed. And not long after that, he said, the next thing is we're going to Maine, and we're going to go moose hunting. I said, Ryan, can I just tell you, I really don't. I said, I love that I had this experience. I've got a great hunting story, but I don't think you've awakened my inner hunter. I don't think I want to kill other things. I love that you want to hang out with me, and this is great. And, our relationship's a big deal to me. And believe me, I wouldn't have done this for anybody else but you. But I don't think I want to kill other things. Please, I'm happy that you think I'm your new hunting buddy. And speaking of Jesus Christ Superstar, not long after that, he used to, every year when he was with the Braves, he would fly me. I think he thought I was his good luck charm. Wherever their opening game was, he would fly me there. And one year, they were playing the Mets, so he flew me to New York. And so while we were there, they had a revival of Superstar on Broadway. And I said, we got to go see Jesus Christ Superstar. So I go buy tickets. I mean, I bought expensive box seat tickets. So I'm sitting there, when they start the overture, near, 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 near. I'm like, oh, and I look, and he's like, and I thought, you are who you are. I don't care that I've got box seats. This is not going to awaken him to loving Broadway. And, and so we had that little moment where the circles interacted, and we had a little common space. And sometimes someone introduces you to something that, you are interested in. But usually, if it's something like, over the years, I had people do things for me, like years ago, somebody bought me pilot lessons because they said, Kenneth Copeland and all these guys, they have their own plane, and, we just know you're going to be the next. You're going to have a worldwide ministry, and you need to be able to fly your own plane. And I'm thinking, I don't even like to fly commercially. I'll do it, but I don't enjoy flying. To pilot a plane, believe me, I've never imagined that. There was somebody who used to go to the church that had a private plane, and they flew me up to teach in Tennessee one time, and he said, would you like to take the controls? And I said, okay. And he said, I saw how to do it. He said, when you pull back, it lifts up the nose. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And, okay, that's cool. I don't know what to do. You get back over here. Somebody who knows what they're doing. That's why if somebody buys you something and they say, I bought you this because you don't have anything like this. If you don't have anything like that, it means you probably don't like that. You should, if you're going to buy something for somebody, buy them something like, I wouldn't wear this, but this looks like them. This is something they would like. So I'm saying all these things to say that sometimes we don't know people. We know who we wish they were, who we project onto them. That's why, it's great to be in a relationship. It's great to be married if you find the right person. But if your idea is to say, I don't like who they are, but I think I can change them. Please do not marry that person. Because I don't care how big your wedding is. I don't even care how much therapy and counseling you go to. They are who they are. You're wired how you're wired. The best anybody can do, I'm not saying people can't change, But the best you can do through therapy is to sort of learn a way to express things in your language. But it's not going to change the way that you're wired. Maybe a therapist can give you some new thoughts, open some new neuropaths that will help you rethink how you are. But if there's going to be any change, it's got to be because you are ready for something different in your life. Change cannot be imposed from somebody else. I feel like I have so many stories, and so many of these you've heard. But years ago, I remember thinking, I want to not just give a homeless person some money. I want to really give them a hand up, not a handout. Like, what would happen if you met somebody and really you were a conduit for them? And so I was out ministering on Ponce one night, and this Ethiopian guy, I led him to the Lord and prayed a sinner's prayer with him. And he needed a place to stay. I put him at the Claremont Hotel. The next day, I checked on him, and he needed clothes. I took him to my house in Stone Mountain, gave him clothes. He came to church that Sunday. I baptized him. And I'm thinking, all right, well, this guy's, he's my project. I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what I was thinking. Like, let me see what would happen. Could somebody get off the streets? And I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying this is my experience. So he needed a place to stay. And so I rented him a little room. It was over there across from Mary Mac's on Myrtle Street. And I said, I can't do this indefinitely, but this will help you get on your feet. And we looked for some jobs. And it taught me a lot about homelessness, because I thought, wow, this guy needs a job. He's got to take a shower. Where's he going to do that? He's got to clean up. So, let's go to CVS and get you some stuff. I mean, I realized it would be like a billionaire saying to you, well, I got $1 billion. Why don't you get, like you would think, well, how would you do that? And I'm not sounding cynical, because I still, as recently as this week, have given people money. But I remember there was one night he called me, and he said, I don't have sufficient blankets and pillows and stuff. I said, all right. So from home, I drove downtown, gave him the stuff, and we kind of, he said, this really isn't my vision. This is what I'm happy with my life the way it is. I said, you like living on the street? And he said, it's not that I like it. It's just, that's just what I know. And it was like, it was an epiphany for me. I thought, I'm imposing something on him that is, I'm seeing through my lens of my life. Because if I were living on the street, I would be thinking, I got to find somebody to help me get out of here. That was not his vision for his life. And I said, all right, fair enough. I will leave you alone from now on. And not long after that, it was in wintertime, I was driving down Ponce, and I saw him standing with a bunch of homeless guys around a fire in a garbage can. They're all warming their hands. And I thought, well, that's what he knows. That's what he wants. And sometimes, that's why even, I'm not against prayer. I have not abandoned the idea of prayer. It's been my experience that in traditional Christian world, a lot of the praying that people do for other people is really, it smacks of manipulation. Because sometimes you don't know. I'll tell you this, even with, I don't think I will say this at her service, but even with Leona, because I talked to her a few days before she transitioned. And I said to her, I said, Leona, I don't want to be in a world without you. I want you to stay here. And she said, well, I don't want to be in a world without you. I want you to get through your thing. I said, well, let's both survive our thing. And even when I saw her Saturday morning before last, which I had no clue it was going to be the last time I saw her, I said, because she had a mask on, oxygen mask, couldn't talk. But I said, Leona, remember we made a pact that we're both going to pull through our thing. I said, pinky swear, and she did her finger up like that. And which is why when I got the call that night that she had transitioned, I thought, oh, man, I did not see that coming at all. But then I thought about it, and I knew that, and this is not what she died of, but she had just been diagnosed with lung cancer. And we had already been talking about it. I said, you've been through other fights before. You'll get through this. But I honestly, I can't read her mind, but I honestly now that I think about it, I think, you know what? I don't think she wanted to deal with all of that. And so for me, it's one thing to encourage somebody. It's one thing to give them an adrenaline shot of optimism. It's another thing to make them do something that they don't want to do. So that's why, I mean, I've been visiting people, terminal people, my entire life. And so what I always ask people is, do you want to live? Because I don't know, before somebody just starts praying, even now, when somebody tells me they're praying for me, sometimes if I don't know you, I'm like, whoa, what exactly are you praying for? Because I'm not sure I want you sending your mojo to me to try to change something about me that you think should be changed. Like sometimes you hear some marriage is dissolving and you're like, let's pray in Jesus' name, God saves that marriage. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. There might be a woman who's being physically abused and she's in danger. Maybe the best thing is for her to be empowered to know what's the right thing for her to do. And I think sometimes prayer can end up being an attachment of saying, this is what I want for you. Now, I do believe there's somebody like a really significant person to you, like a spouse or particularly, or a partner. And if they get sick, I think there's something really powerful about saying, I really want you to stay. I really want you to fight. I want you to pull through. I think that's a valid statement. I don't think you have that relationship with everybody. I mean, you don't know what's going on with some people. I just know what little bit I've even been through with in recent weeks and months with my heart and with my shoulder. Just the basic things like MRIs and stress tests and EKGs. It's a lot. It messes with your head a lot. And that doctors can and they say it all day long, so of course they're not going to be dramatic when they say it. But they're just very, like the first time I'm careful not to talk about this too much, and I don't even like to say the word because I don't want it big in my word cloud. But this thing in my heart that I'm believing is dissolving. But the first time I met with a cardiologist whose name is Dr. Sun, S-U-N, so I'm like, well, that's good. This is the sunshine, and I do like him. And I'm sure this is racial profiling, but he's Vietnamese, and I'm like, yes, he's Asian. In my head, I'm thinking, I want an Asian surgeon. I'm sure that's probably politically incorrect to say that, but that's what I think. At least I didn't say I want a white guy, so at least there's that. But he kind of wasn't giving me what I wanted, because he's looking at he said, it looks like it measures at a 4.5. I said, that sounds big. He said, it is. I said, oh, okay. Do I need to be concerned? He said, you could probably, I said, how big do they get before you're out of here? And he said, you could probably live with a 5. I said, so I'm at a 4.5 right now? He said, yeah, but you could, in theory, you could live with one at 5, probably for the rest of your life. And I'm like, Dr. Sun, you're not sounding really sunny right now, all right? Now, I will say this, because after I got the echocardiogram, which was a different thing, now this website, my something, whatever it is, you can log in and see the results of your test, my chart. So I got all this stuff, and I'm looking at it, I thought, I don't understand any of these numbers, but I do see the number 4. And Ken said, well, I'm reading the chart, and he said, looks like it's at a 4. I said, is it possible that it's shrinking? And he was like a totally different person. He's like, oh, yeah, totally, it could shrink. Yeah, that's probably what's happening. I'm like, where were you last time I met? Because you really got up inside my head, Dr. Sun. But the thing is, you want them to tell you the truth. It's just that they're so matter-of-fact about it. And I'm saying, what my point is, when somebody's really got something serious, you don't know how many of those things they're going through all the time. And it's easy to dismiss it and say, oh, don't pay attention to doctors. Doctors don't know anything. Well, you're not the one sitting there hearing them talk about your body and your life expectancy. And sometimes I have learned, and I'm sure I've done this before in the past, sometimes people trying to be positive nearly can sound dismissive of the seriousness of your situation. Like when some people say, oh, don't even pay attention to that. Like, well, that's easy for you to say. You're not in talks with this doctor, and I'm glad for your positivity, but why don't you, instead of attaching yourself to your expectations from me, why don't you access our connection and learn the rhythms learn the rhythms coming out of me. I don't know what just happened. Anyway, my point is, maybe you should realize your connection with them and locate where they are. Sometimes people don't necessarily need a pep talk. You know, Paul told the Romans, he said, weep with those that weep. Sometimes the best thing to do is just sit and cry with somebody and just say, oh my God, that sucks. I mean, I don't mind asking somebody, like, are you afraid? What's going on? And you know, give me the real deal, because people need to talk about what's real to them. And if you only stay in attachment, sometimes you stay in manipulation mode. This is what I want. I want the people in my life to be this way. And that may not be what they want. All right. Go on. This is Anton St. Martin says this. And this is about manifesting things. It says, to successfully manifest whatever you most desire in life, you must set a crystal clear intention for it. With resolution, make your requests known. You do have to be clear about them. I think clarity is very important. You also have to, and I told Judah I would give him credit for this because he coined this term. You also have to have flexpectations. Flexpectations is saying, this is what I'm going for. This is the expectation I have. But I'm also a little flexible in how it manifests. And there's a real balancing act in there, because if you have this thing in your mind, like, this is what I want, this is what I'm believing for, this is my vision, and you're standing in faith, that has its place. But sometimes standing in faith in the traditional sense nearly becomes, again, manipulative. It's like, this is the way it has to be. And sometimes you need to have a little wiggle room in the way you want a thing manifested. Sometimes you need to believe for the best, but also allow for God to do exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or think. And so with this, I love that he mentions this. Like, yes, be definite about your expectation and be clear about it and be intentional, but also don't be attached to outcomes. When you say don't be attached to outcome, I'll give you a classic example. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are threatened with the fiery furnace. They say to Nebuchadnezzar, we believe God will deliver us from this furnace. Like, that's the intention that we've set. But even if he doesn't, we're not going to bow to you. So your threats are irrelevant to us. You know, he says, I'm going to make it 7 times hotter. Well, knock yourself out. I'm going to die in a second anyway. Is it a second as opposed to a nanosecond? I mean, you know, sure, whatever. And there's something so empowering about saying, I'm believing for the best, but I'm going to be okay no matter what happens. And that's not, I think back in the Word of Faith days, we used to call that being double-minded. I don't think that's being double-minded. I think that's being spiritual. I'm talking about the spirit life, right? Let me wrap this up. Let's go on to the next thing. Did we lose connection? I think I get 3 more points in here. If you can't get it, I'll just read off my phone. It's fine. What? Something's binging. It's all right. I'll get it off here. Say what? Let me find this. It's all good, Michelle. We'll find it. We'll figure it out. The fifth thing that I wrote down is, and I'm not sure I know how to pronounce this name, Akarok Brost. And I like this one. When we accept things, it does not necessarily mean we condone them. Acceptance provides us with a choice of what we want to emotionally attach to, what we are prepared to be involved with, and do something about. May I say, this is something parents of adult children have to remember all the time. All the time. Because when they're under your roof and you still have the stewardship over them, then you have a right to say, as long as you're in this house, you're going to do this, whatever. Once they're beyond that, you have no choice but to watch them make their mistakes, learn from their stuff, just like you had to learn from yours. And if you just because you accept something doesn't mean you condone it. Once your children have grown up, you have to decide what your relationship is going to be like with them. And if you're still trying to parent them as you would have when they were children, they're going to resist it. They're going to and may I say, they should resist it. There's a certain amount of self-actualization that you're supposed to do. You know how I know that? You know how we all know that? Because there were things your parents said to you after you grew up about how how you're raising that child wrong and you're not doing this. And they were my child, I'd never let them do that. And you're like, well, they're not your child. I mean, you might not have said that, but you thought that. Guess what? Your children think the same thing about you. And they should. Oh, I struck a nerve, didn't I? I struck a nerve up in here. But it'll just make you happier in life to say, that's who they are. Oh, they posted that online? Wow. Okay. That's a little embarrassing, but that's who they are. And there's no point in trying to micromanage their page because all they're going to do is block you. So at a certain point with the people in your life who you no longer have the control or the responsibility of control, then you just have to say, well, I guess this is what you're doing now. Okay. Yay. I accept it. You may think, I don't condone it, but I accept it. And this one, are we up and running yet? No? Okay. That the devil is a lie. This number 6, when I read this, I felt something shift inside me. It's by Jackson Kiddard, and it says, anything you can't control is teaching you how to let go. Anything you can't control is teaching you how to let go. Do you feel it? And especially if you're a type A person and you're used to, you're a problem solver and that's how you're wired. When you see a problem, well, let's fix it. We can fix this. And that's fine. I'm not telling you, not to go with your nature. If that's who you are, we need problem solvers. Thank God for alpha males and alpha females. And thank God they're people in leadership positions, people who have good ideas. I'm not telling you just to be totally passive and live your life in neutral. What I'm saying is, you don't control the universe, nor do I. You know what's been really good for me is I've had some really amazing situations with the weather. I've also had some things that Mother Nature just said, I'm Mother Nature, stop telling me what to do. And I really felt the awe of it. I'm like, yes, ma'am. I was getting a little bit bossy. Because, there, at one point, I'd gotten so famous for having weather miracles that my phone was ringing off the hook with people saying, hey, we got this barbecue coming up this weekend. Could you pray? And I'm like, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be responsible for your daughter's wedding. If you're concerned about the weather, have it inside. Or have a plan B or something. I don't want to be, because then people will get mad. Hey, we asked you to pray, and so, the family reunion got rained out. Well, I don't control the rain. If I have any authority over it all, it's only as it has to do with my Metron. So that, if I'm doing a meditation weekend, I will say something like, we need good weather. And we've had weather miracles nearly every time. There's been sometimes we just had to find a place inside. And it doesn't mean that I've lost my mojo or that God's not real. It's just a little reality check that you've had some amazing things happen. Yes, you called your stuff off the bottom of that river, and yes, that happened. That was a miracle, and you're allowed to talk about as much as you want to. But since then, I've lost some other things. I've called, I've spoken, I've pulled down, plucked up, walked around 7 times, blew a horn, and it's like, I guess I got to go buy a new one. I don't know why it's that way, but it's good for you sometimes just to realize, not to the point that it clips your wings. I mean, you want to still operate in your divinity and in the supernatural, but you also sometimes just need a little reality check that, maybe I don't control everything. And that's, if you respond to it appropriately, it's actually very liberating. And the last thing is just, what? Oh, we got it back. And the last thing is just this one verse out of 2 Corinthians 3:17. I'm in the Amplified Classic. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, emancipation from bondage, and freedom. So that's what I wanted to leave with you. And did you get anything out of this today? All right. Sometime back, I was talking about Joseph's coat, and I thought when I painted this, it was going to be a picture of Joseph with his coat of many colors, and it kind of came out an entirely different way. By the way, when I wore this jacket today, I was not planning on color coordinating. I'm just in the zone. But I'm calling this Joseph coat, and it's got the words see and imagine and visualize and dream and create and prophesy and conceptualize. And, when I paint these, I don't really have a plan. I just paint them. Many of you have bought some of them. And Claudette messaged me and said, I knew you would have one. I was waiting for me. I was waiting till you got the color scheme that I was looking for, and that one's mine, and she's already paid for it. So would you please come forward and receive your painting? There you are. I love you. Look at Kim. We're going to get a picture together. All right. You're famous now. You have an original. One day it will go for, they just recently sold an Andy Warhol soup can for like $50 million. I'm not saying mine are going for that, but you might want to hold on to them. After they might be worth something someday. I think that was everything I wanted to announce. And so now we're going to move into celebration mode. So what do we need to do? Are we just bringing? All right. So those of you that are streaming, if you're in the Atlanta area, please drive over here. I need to see some people showing up. I love that y'all like to watch me in your underwear, but I would really, I'd like for you to put some lipstick on and drive over here. But anyway, I love you, and we'll be back here next Sunday. Remember, we will not be here 2 weeks from today. Also, those of you that are streaming, please go to bishinthenow.com and contribute in some way. We really need you to do that. We've added to the expenses. We're going back to every week. So if you're not up to your normal giving, I need you to step that up. So please do that. If you want to give to me personally, that's fine. I have all the cash apps. I love you. Remember, you're attached to nothing but connected to everything. Peace. All right.